All right, welcome everyone. My name is Nathan Rodke. I am the co-chair, one of the co-chairs of the Healthcare as a Human Right Steering Committee. I am also the Healthcare Campaign Director at Washington CAN. Welcome to our winter general meeting for Healthcare as a Human Right. We're really glad all of you can join us. We have a great program for all of you. We're going to start off with Claude Burfict. Claude is going to convene the meeting. It's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to introduce Claude. He's a member of our steering committee, a member of Seattle-King County NAACP, Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, retired Public Employees Council, Seattle-King County African American Reparations Committee, Puget Sound Advocates for Retirement Action, and more. And once again, Claude's going to convene the meeting, and then we will go from there. Take it away, Claude.
Thank you, Nathan. In a few more days, what I would like to say is welcome to 2025. In a few more days, the new administration will assume office in Washington, D.C. As I look around this meeting, I don't see people who are satisfied with being on the sideline. I see people here that are seasoned, tested, and have been on the battlefield for years fighting to make our country, America, the ideal country to live in. By that I mean economically being able to afford to live in our country, affordable health care that all Americans can afford, equality, all Americans are treated the same equally. I can go on and I will. Right now, I would like to expound on a couple of programs that occurred a few years ago that enable Americans to live a quality of life through retirement and their senior years. In 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president, signed in law the Social Security Act, continuing income after retirement. And in 1965, President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed into law Medicare, Medicaid. Let's now talk about 2025. This new administration would like to create, guess what? A caste class system. The very rich and the very poor. Zero middle class. And should I say, a major taste of oligarchy. That means just a few. In winding down, I don't have to tell you to put on your boxing gloves because y'all know how to fight. All I'm saying is get ready because what this new administration would like to implement would have a tremendous impact on the American people. This administration would like to decimate Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, repeal Affordable Care Act, pass national bans on abortion, cut taxes on the wealthy and corporations, weaken organized labor, suppress voting rights, eliminate affirmative action, reverse our climate program, make mass deportations, curtail LGBTQ plus rights, privatize the United States Postal Services, and much more. There are numerous programs that risk being destroyed and that the American people have won over many years to achieve a better life for ourselves and for those who immigrate to our country. We must not let ourselves be divided or give in to fear. We and those on whose shoulders we stand have through tough times before. Let us remain united and join with all of those who want to build a good future for our country and our world. On that note, let me not be remiss to acknowledge the land that we live on today. The land Our coalition is spread around the state of Washington. Let us reflect on the lands on which we reside and acknowledge all of the ancestral homelands and traditional territories of indigenous people who have been here since time immemorial. Healthcare is a human right, as our office functions in King County, and we acknowledges the Coast Salish people of this land, and the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands with the Duwamish, Puyallup, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot Nation. We also invite you to acknowledge the historical violence of forced, unpaid labor on our country, ceded, that unceded stolen land on which we all stand. This could not be more important in our current historical moment, and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Claude. That was really powerful. Yeah, thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our MCs. First, John Godfrey, co-chair of the Healthcare is a Human Right Organizing Committee and Healthcare is a Human Right Steering Committee member and Program Organizing Member, Manager at Washington Can. Along with HCHRWA, who is on the board of Healthcare for All Washington, One Payer States, and Physicians for a National Health Program, Washington. Take it away, Cello.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to briefly go through the agenda. In tonight's agenda, we'll begin with a video made specially for Healthcare as a Human Right by Representative Pramila Jayapal on what is happening on the federal level. After the video, Representative Macri will share some important ways to stay involved on the state level during this year's legislative session. Then, an update on the Healthcare as a Human Right budget by Nathan, followed by our Policy Committee co-chairs HCHFAWA Elias of Community Health Plan of Washington and Max Lau of Children's Alliance, and then is the vote on the Healthcare as a Human Right 2025 policy agenda. And finally, there will be an important call for action. It's a packed agenda, but we are glad you are here with us.
And before we jump into the program, I'm just going to ground us in our coalition and our purpose. Healthcare as a Human Right was founded in 2013 and today remains committed to affordable, accessible, and equitable healthcare for every person in our state and nation. We are a growing grassroots movement of community and labor organizations determined to win healthcare justice. Our work is conducted through our committees, including steering, organizing, HUCs, communications, and budget. Today, we are going to hear a lot from our intrepid co-chairs of our policy committee about our common legislative agenda, which we will vote on today. Finally, we are always seeking to build our capacity, and we need your help. If you would like to get more involved in helping move the work of our committees, please reach out to me, as well as any of the co-chairs of our committees. And with that, I'll pass it on to Cello, and I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you, everyone.
First, we are very pleased to show a video specially made for our coalition by Representative Jayapal. Representative Jayapal, as I'm sure many of you know, has been a leader on Medicare for All, as well as the state-based Universal Health Care Act, along with countless other issues in solidarity with healthcare as a human right. Here's Pramila.
I'm Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, and I'm honored to represent Washington's 7th Congressional District in the House of Representatives. It is great to be with you, Healthcare is a Human Right, as you gather to organize, strategize, and adopt your 2025 policy agenda. Thank you all for your advocacy on this crucial issue of healthcare access and affordability in our state. Your work to achieve high-quality, publicly funded healthcare for all Washington residents is critically important, especially the work to rally grassroots support and build a community labor coalition for health justice. That is truly the way to move legislation forward. I am so proud to lead the movement for Medicare for All in Congress. My improved Medicare for All Act is the country's most comprehensive plan to transition to a single-payer, universal healthcare system that finally will put people over profits. After first introducing this comprehensive bill in the House back in 2019, I was able to help get the first hearings ever in the House in 2020. And each year, we have continued to build support, culminating last year in getting more than half of the House Democratic Caucus to sign on as co-sponsors. The 112 members of Congress who co-sponsored the bill at introduction last year also included many of our powerful committee ranking members. None of this would have been possible without all of you organizers across the country who have been fighting so hard with us for this vital legislation. We must keep working to increase that number next year when we reintroduce the legislation and to paint the vision of what a universal healthcare system looks like and how it will ensure that we spend less on healthcare as a country, get better results for everyone, and ensure that everyone is in and nobody is out. Let's be real. Our healthcare system is broken. 85 million people are uninsured or underinsured in the richest nation on earth, and millions of people are drowning in medical debt. The devastating COVID pandemic only underscored that Medicare for All can't wait, as 27 million people lost healthcare when they lost their jobs, and Black, Brown, and Indigenous people suffered the worst losses. We deserve better. The Medicare for All Act is good legislation that isn't just transformative, it is wildly popular. It's supported by 70% of registered voters and has been endorsed by over 100 local governments. People deserve and want comprehensive health care, mental health, long-term care, reproductive care, dental, vision, and hearing. And all of that with no copays, private insurance premiums, deductibles, or other hidden fees that insurance companies love to sneak in. Getting this legislation passed is going to be an uphill battle. We have to build support from the ground up. No matter if we are talking about state or federal single-payer healthcare, we're talking about the same principle, healthcare being a human right. State-based plans show us what can be done in the effort to provide comprehensive healthcare at a large scale, serving as a model for what a country with guaranteed healthcare could look like. State-based plans also give us momentum in our push for federal Medicare for All legislation. Now, some states will refuse to adopt these plans, hurting some of our most underserved and marginalized communities. That is why we have to continue to fight for federal legislation as well and guarantee healthcare as a human right to every single American, regardless of which state you live in. In Congress, we're continuing the important work to build the support we need both inside and outside of the Capitol to make the state-based Universal Health Care Act and the Medicare for All Act realities. None of this can happen without you. We have to organize like our lives depend on it because they really do. And as we work toward that ultimate goal, we must continue fighting to protect and improve healthcare everywhere that we can. A huge part of that is leveling the Medicare playing field by promoting traditional Medicare over Medicare disadvantage and pushing for expanded programs and more affordability. We need to prevent the total privatization of Medicare by these private Medicare disadvantage plans. Plans that are run by insurance companies who only care about profits and are constantly overcharging, denying claims, and causing delays in care. Medicare disadvantage puts patients over profits, and that's unacceptable. I'll keep working hard in Congress and with organizations like yours to defend and expand traditional Medicare. I know the results of this last election are not what we wanted or worked for. And I'm not going to sugarcoat things. The Republican trifecta is going to make it hard, if not impossible, to make progress on legislation. Instead, we'll be fighting many defensive battles. But just a few days ago, Elon Musk tweeted about how expensive our healthcare system is and how there is no way we should spend so much money on healthcare compared to other countries. I tweeted back that I agree and that we've got the solution. And it is Medicare for All. So let's not forget that despite our losses, there will be many opportunities for us to continue to educate the American people on the ills of our corporate, for-profit, private insurance company controlling healthcare that puts profits over patients. And we must continue the work to educate people on our solution, how it works and what it means. We can't afford to wait or slow down on our organizing, no matter how angry or tired or frustrated we may be. We have to channel all of that anger and frustration into real work to rebuild our party and show Americans that we will fight for them to have health care as a right, not a privilege for the wealthiest few. I know that's exactly what I'll be continuing to do, standing right alongside you in the halls of Congress to advance this legislation and make Medicare for All a reality. So thank you for all that you've done and all that you will do to win this critically important fight ahead. Have a great conference, and let's get organizing.
Big thank yous to Congresswoman Jayapal's office for helping us get that video produced today. And the folk singer Pete Seeger once said sarcastically in a title to a song, "What a friend we have in Congress." And I think we all can say with utmost sincerity, what a friend we do have in Congress with Representative Jayapal. But I also have a friend in Olympia to introduce you all to today. Nicole Macri of the 43rd Legislative District. She has been a tireless advocate for the values we share and the policies we need as Washingtonians, especially related to housing and healthcare. She will discuss some upcoming challenges and opportunities we have coming up in the legislative session. And we also want to wish her a happy birthday from our Healthcare as a Human Right family. And Representative, you have the floor.
John, thank you so much, and thanks for those birthday wishes. It's my honor to be here with you all today, and I'm just inspired to see so many good friends on the screen. I'm just so grateful for this coalition of strong advocates. So yeah, I'm going to try to give a speed round on some of the challenges. You all are very seasoned and engaged advocates, so many of you are aware of some of the dynamics as we head into the legislative session. I will say Representative Jayapal sort of hit on a lot of the most important points. One of the big challenges facing us here in Washington State is the change in administration at the federal level, Trump 2.0, and bolstered by this Republican trifecta, with House and Senate both being in Republican control. So that presents to us a lot of uncertainty and not a lot of faith that our federal partners are going to be able to assist us in ways that they have before. This is particularly true in the healthcare arena, where we have had really good success and made tremendous progress in collaboration with the federal government in recent years, including in some nation-leading Medicaid waivers that have helped us to expand access to healthcare in a number of ways. And so the certainty ahead is something that we're all going to have to face together. And we in the legislature, and I know in the executive branch as well, have been talking about how we make sure we continue to protect the progress that we've made and that we continue to proceed in ensuring equitable access to healthcare for all Washingtonians. So the budget looms large as a big challenge this session. You all have probably heard there's a multi-billion-dollar shortfall. Governor Inslee has proposed a budget that closes that shortfall in a couple of different ways, most notably by proposing a wealth tax to bring more equity to our outdated tax code that does not fit our current economy at all. House and Senate Democrats are, I think, both looking at the details of how a wealth tax could be enacted, but also looking at other revenue options as well. And so there'll be a lot of conversation about revenue, and already the bellyaching is starting about it. And the opposition is mounting and telling us that the only option really is the status quo, which will result in deep cuts to state services to the most vulnerable people in the state. And so, number one thing we're going to need from healthcare advocates is your voice to say the status quo is not acceptable. An austerity cuts only budget is not an option for us to face in Washington, where we have a very strong economy, where we have more billionaires than most other states, and where we know wealth inequality is plaguing all areas of our state. Some exciting um, policies that I want to be sure to touch on that are the result of some of the work that you all have done over the years to advocate for more equitable healthcare for all. One is Senator Robinson has dropped a bill on PEB-SEB consolidation, which is an effort that many of us have been working on for many years. What we want to do is both to expand the number of people who are covered by state-based insurance, public insurance, and to maximize our buying power as a state in the healthcare space. And so there have been many studies over the years, and I worked last year to do yet another one to move us in that direction. So I'm really glad to see that bill. I think that Representative Lachman is going to do a companion bill in the House, which I'm really excited about. Rep. Lachman is a new vice chair on the House Healthcare Committee, and I'm excited to have her both joining the committee and stepping into that leadership role. She and I have done a lot of work on healthcare, particularly for our tribal nations, and particularly in the substance abuse space. And so I'm just really delighted to see her stepping in on this bill. I've been working also with Senator Robinson on a bill to bring more affordability to our public employees and retirees through a bill that would implement reference-based pricing in PEB and SEB that would bring more affordability to patients and consumers and be a net savings to the state budget as well. It is based on a similar policy that was enacted in Oregon a few years ago that has shown good success there. And it is, I think, an important step in the right direction in terms of affordability in healthcare. I'm also working on a bill to increase our Medicaid rate. So as we try to manage the costs of commercial insurance, we know that our Medicaid rates continue to not meet costs for our providers, and that is particularly true in areas where we have specific shortages in terms of access to care in primary care, behavioral health care, especially maternal health care, and other areas. So working on a bill that would increase Medicaid rates by levying a modest covered lives assessment on health care insurers. The governor's budget, I will say, there are some things that we need to work on to protect that, our moves the governor did. I understand they had a tough position, and we are going to make some tough decisions this session, but it is going to be really important for you all to bring your voices forward. One I want to speak of in particular is the Cascade Care savings. So, we have taken tremendous steps in expanding access to health insurance to folks in the state, first by enacting Cascade Care, but secondly, by adding premium assistance to folks who otherwise would be unable to buy health insurance. And we have seen that the demand has outstripped the resources, in that the individual plan seekers on Washington Health Plan Finder.org had access premium assistance to the extent that during open enrollment, the Health Benefits Exchange had to stop access to the premium assistance in mid-December when open enrollment continues, as you know, through mid-January. And so we know the demand exceeds what we've already invested. The governor made a modest investment to continue Cascade Care savings, but at a much lower rate than we invested in the previous year, and for 1 year only. So we need to bolster that, particularly because of what's happening at the federal level, and because there's great uncertainty about where our federal subsidies for Affordable Care Act individual health plan seeker premium assistance is going to be. Those tax credits and premium subsidies at the federal level are at great risk. And we risk losing 70,000 people with coverage in Washington state if we don't sustain our Cascade Care savings program. Similarly, we made dramatic strides this July when we expanded Apple Health to immigrants in this state, regardless of their immigration status. We saw demand for that program was tremendous, and enrollment for that program closed in less than a day and a half. So we need to continue to build towards both sustaining and expanding that program. The governor's budget instead shifts the program from being part of the broader managed care Medicaid program to a standalone fee-for-service program, which does save dollars, but also those dollar savings come at the expense of quality and equity for our Apple Health expanded enrollees. So we'll need to fight hard on that. There are other areas of healthcare that are really important, but I wanted to name these really big picture efforts that you all have been so instrumental in moving us along on. We're going to have to both be in a protect mode, in pushing legislators, educating many legislators who are not deeply knowledgeable about health policy, and making sure that Democrats know that we have the ability to make progress, and that we don't need to listen to the rhetoric that we're tied to the status quo. So I expect to see you all in Olympia, either in person or virtually. I expect you all to continue to engage with your legislators on these top issues, and I'm just so grateful for you all and feel very fortunate to be able to live here in Washington with you.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
To continue on Nicole Macri's very important statement about immigrant equity, Washington State was one of the first states to offer health care coverage for all undocumented children. Now we are one of the first states to win coverage for undocumented adults. Here to tell us about it are Joseph Lachman, Policy Manager at Asian Counseling and Referral Service, and Li Chi Luong, Senior Policy Advocate at Northwest Health Law Advocates.
Thanks to Rep. Macri for spending part of her birthday with us and all her work improving health equity. Today, I'm excited to share more about some of that progress that we've made, and then we'll hand things over to Joseph Lachman to talk about our ask for the upcoming legislative session. And thank you to all of you for your work helping us advance health as a human right. In 2019, nearly 1 in 4 uninsured Washingtonians lacked coverage due to lacking federal immigration status. That's over 100,000 of our neighbors, friends, business owners, essential workers, and family. And so I'm very excited to move to the next slide. So we all know that federal immigration law is basically part of a systemic system of racism. And what not everybody knows is that who's undocumented in Washington doesn't necessarily look like the stereotypes that people have in mind. In Washington state, about 39% of those who are undocumented identify as Hispanic or Latino. 43% come from an Asian country or a Pacific island. So the vast majority of people in Washington state who are undocumented are visible minorities. It's also worth remembering that people who are immigrants in the United States should have access to the same social safety net as everyone else, which is why we are working so hard on this campaign. Next slide, please. So we've made a lot of progress in Washington state. We used to be really at the forefront of the work of health equity, and in recent years, we've made progress expanding Apple Health for kids, regardless of immigration status. Pregnant people now have a year of postpartum coverage, regardless of immigration status. Half the people in Washington state are eligible for charity care, either free care or discounted care. And as a sort of backstop program, there is the emergency care program for people who don't have the immigration status to allow them access to Apple Health. So over a year ago, Washington became the first state to let all Washingtonians spend their own money to purchase health coverage on our state exchange. And as Rep. Macri mentioned, this past July, nearly 12,000 people were able to access Apple Health expansion. We continue to fight to make sure those programs are being implemented in a fair and equitable way. Next slide, please. Those efforts are under the umbrella of the Health Equity for Immigrants campaign. Over 100 organizations have worked together over many years to advocate for a more equitable system of health coverage in Washington state. You can see some of the logos on this slide, but there are really too many to fit on the slide. But all of us in this room are part of a much larger effort. Next slide, please. So the progress that we made is in two buckets, and I want to make sure we're all aware of what they are. So, as I said, everyone in Washington can go to Health Plan Finder, can shop for coverage. Until mid-December, people up to 250% of the federal poverty level were able to access up to $250 a month in state-sponsored premium assistance. People can continue to shop for coverage now and can continue to access federal premium assistance, but unfortunately, as Rep. Macri mentioned, Cascade Care Savings, we have exhausted all the funding that was made available by the legislature in the last legislative session for this plan year. The other huge progress is the Apple Health Expansion Program. And while we were thrilled that nearly 12,000 people currently have coverage under this new program, almost 12,000 people have applied for the program and been denied due to the limited funding. However, I want to make sure everyone knows that if people want to be considered for the program, should more funding be available, that people can still sign up. So make sure to spread that word to people in your circles that they can choose to apply and be considered if space becomes available. So we're going to move to the next slide. So while that's all great news, there are very serious affordability challenges that still remain. As you can see from this slide, people who have access to federal subsidies, if they have up to 250% of the federal poverty level as their income, they can access a plan that has no monthly premium. By contrast, people who don't have access to federal subsidies, like those Washingtonians who are undocumented, can't access federal premium assistance, while those who signed up by December 18th could access $250 a month in Cascade Care savings. They still had to pay typically over $100 in premiums. That really adds up when you think about the deductibles and the cost shares on top of that. And even $128 a month is hard to come up with if you're at making only 250% of the federal poverty level. I also want to remind folks that undocumented immigrants contribute over $880 million in state and local taxes. We, as a state, can afford to provide equitable health access, which brings us to the Health Equity for Immigrants Ask, and I'll hand things over to Joseph for the next slide.
Thank you so much, Nietzsche. Yep, so again, my name is Joseph Lachman. He used him, his pronouns, and I'm the policy manager at Asian Counseling and Referral Service, and also a member of the Health Equity for Immigrants Coalition. And just talking briefly here about some of our goals for the 2025 legislative session. So I think there's an understanding that we are in a tough budget year, and so if possible, we would love to see full funding for the Apple Health expansion, and that's reaching around 35,000 people roughly. The program as it stands now serves around 12,000 people, but there are already at least 12,000 or so roughly who are also just waiting. Already were denied due to the program being full, as Representative Macri noted. The program filled up so quickly. We would love to see something like this, put into statute, but understand that that may be difficult given the tough, fiscal year that we're entering. But we still like to see this, whether it's in statute or if it's still continues through the budget. Again, would like to see that funding for the Apple Health expansion. Even looking to expand it moderately would be, every person that gets covered under this, is another person who's able to access care. There are also some other smaller but still important investments, including investments that are going towards accountability, an affordability study for addressing longer term concerns about the affordability of care, and that can go for other immigrant populations as well, including folks under the 5-year bar, et cetera. And then also looking at the feasibility of eventually incorporating long-term care, which is always been considered tough, but again, it's just a vital piece of ensuring equity for immigrant communities, both documented and undocumented. And of course, the campaign continues to support continued Cascade Care savings. And sort of needless to say, but again, just an important source of pushing for equity and affordability. And also just, it's not written on here, but I would really like to note that we also share the concerns that Representative Macri mentioned about fee for service. So a change over to that care delivery model, just because of the, again, major concerns with quality of care as well as utilization. And we would really, and Leach, you see your hands up, feel free to hop in.
Thanks, Joseph. I just wanted to reinforce Joseph's message about questions that have come up from community-based organizations we work with about fee-for-service coverage. Fee-for-service is the model for undocumented Apple Health kids and undocumented pregnant coverage. So we have heard that folks do have access issues. If you know of access issues related to people who have fee-for-service coverage, that would be really helpful in helping us figure out how to shape our advocacy in this very challenging budget climate. Thanks.
Thanks, Leachy. And I'll wrap it up there. I just want to also say a big thank you to Representative Ty, who's been a champion for this issue, amongst others, and also a thank you to Representative Macri as well for just being a really supportive champion over on the budget side. So thank you to all the legislators who've been really supportive here, but just wanted to really mention those.
Thank you so much for telling us about the pitfalls of this bill. We are certainly looking forward to learning more and how we can support you as the session continues. Now it's time for a brief report on Healthcare as a Human Right budget from Nathan. Nathan is the Healthcare Campaign Director of Washington CAN and is the co-chair of Healthcare as a Human Right Steering Committee. Take it away, Nathan.
Thanks so much, Cello. A huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting us, not only with your amazing participation in our work, showing up, but by supporting us financially and how it reflects on our coalition's budget. It helped us put on some really cool events this year. In March, we held a rally for universal health care at the Capitol steps as our legislative session was coming to a close, demanding that our legislators get to the finish line on important legislation that HCHR was putting forward and fighting for. Then in August, we held our state's first ever single-payer healthcare conference. We brought in Rose Roach from the Labor Campaign for Single Payer, and her keynote speech energized the audience. And many of those folks that we brought in that day continue to convene and organize with us today. Your investments are also going to be helping us upgrade our communications, and support brings us together to organize, collaborate as we continue to move forward and fight for a healthcare system that delivers healthcare justice for all, not just in our state, but in our country. So I want to thank everyone for that. But in addition, want to really extend like a really extra special thanks to Jesus Sanchez. Jesus has made several really generous contributions to HCHR individually, but also served on our steering committee and our budget committee. Jesus has retired after many years of leadership at CMAR Community Health Centers, and we're very happy for him. Even if we're sad to lose him, we're very happy for him. And we would also like to welcome Nick Ramirez from CMAR. Nick will be stepping in to serve on our steering committee representing CMAR. So thank you, Nick, and thank you, Jesus. And yeah, let's go back to John.
Thank you, Nathan. Without a doubt, one of our strengths as a coalition is the great work of our policy committee. Here to walk us through our proposed 2025 policy agenda, our committee co-chairs HCHCHRWA Elias, Public Policy Analyst with Community Health Plan of Washington, and Max Lau, Policy Manager, Health and Economic Justice at the Children's Alliance. We want to give an extra special welcome to Max as he joined the policy committee as a co-chair this past summer. They are also both members of the steering committee. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, John. That was a great introduction. Just briefly before we get started, I'll echo a little bit of what Rep. Macri mentioned earlier, kind of what our thought process was and some context around the agenda that we set, mostly around the budget deficit, which she explained very well. It's very large, to the tune of, I think I've heard upwards of $14 billion over the next couple of years. So that's a big barrier, but also presents a lot of opportunities to push really hard for progressive revenue. So that'll be very present on our agenda as well. And then quickly in response to some of those budget considerations and the Governor Inslee's final budget proposal as he leaves office as governor, we have drafted a sign-on letter to share with you all. You heard Rep. Macri share earlier that we need to make our voices heard this session. I couldn't agree more. So this is one opportunity for you all to do that. We will share the link to sign on to that towards the end of the meeting today, but just know that that's coming. It's urging the legislature to avoid budget cuts to critical health services and to pass progressive revenue so that we can both play defense on services that we know we need desperately, and also make progress in areas that we need to do that as well. So with that, I'll pass it on to my fellow co-chair, HCHCHRWA.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Max, for illustrating the climate for this session. So our policy committee uses these 4 goals to ensure that we're on the right track and so that we're honing in on what's important to the coalition. You'll also be able to see these 4 goals on our priority document, and maybe I can put it in the chat in a second. But in short, our first goal is to achieve universal health care. Second is to improve healthcare affordability and access. Third is to advance equity and address social determinants of health. And last is to defend access to healthcare and through existing public programs. And this is what we've used to guide how we develop our priorities. This is what determines we work on during legislative session and how we engage on policy items or sign-on letters. And then we use this also to determine what the committee uses in between legislative sessions. While they're big goals, we do focus on incremental progress. And just a reminder, these goals apply for both state and federal policies. So each of our proposed policies do fit into one or multiple of these goals, and we'll go through each goal and the policy items and talk about how we've considered them. Next slide. So when we look at policy items and when organizations propose them to the policy committee, we filter through by asking these 3 questions, which are tied to the 4 goals, and make sure that we're staying aligned. The first question is, does this issue enhance and support the mission and goals of HCHR, which are the goals we just mentioned? Second question is, does the issues have a critical mass of advocates, including a core leadership of organization within HCHR? And then the third question is there a clear and realistic strategy to pass or adopt the policy proposal? And each policy item has gone through these 3 questions, and we've talked through them in our policy committee, and that's how we've determined what we put on our final agenda. Next slide. So our first goal, achieving universal health care, and I'll side note, for each goal, we'll talk through the state, federal, and non-legislative work that we can do to achieve that goal. So this legislative session, there will be 2 things that we're tracking on the state level. One is the Washington Health Trust, which is a publicly funded nonprofit health plan for individuals to enroll in. And then the second is the Senate Joint Memorial, which is a petition that asks the federal government to support states in creating a universal healthcare system that will help us move towards achieving universal healthcare on the state level. On the federal level, we are tracking Medicare for All, which is free comprehensive healthcare on a national level, and then also the State-Based Universal Healthcare Act, which will allow states to create their own universal health systems. And then outside of state and federal policy, we'll continue to engage in the Universal Healthcare Commission and holding them accountable to ensure they're working towards a tangible solution. And we do have a HUC subcommittee, which is doing really great in that work. And then the third thing is an incremental step to continue the work around consolidating PEPSEB, which will also move us towards universal healthcare. And then next slide, I'll pass back to Max.
Thanks, HCHFAWA. So our second goal, and I'll try to move a little quickly here so I don't take up too much of your evening, affordability and access. So these are obviously very foundational to everything that HCHR stands for, essentially. Our priorities here, 1, ensuring availability of affordable coverage options such as Cascade Care Savings, which you heard mentioned many times already. It's a huge priority for us. Ensuring equitable access to care, including reproductive care. One example of this is the Keep Our Care Act, which we expect will be coming back this year. Supporting targeted efforts to build workforce and address disparities. This could include giving psychologists prescriptive authority or supporting students who are entering the behavioral health workforce with conditional scholarships. Additionally, we're going to hope for ensuring oversight of health spending, such as PEP-SEB, cost containment. You heard earlier about Senator Robinson's bill to consolidate PEP and SEB, as well as aligning Washington's laws with mental health parity, with the Mental Health Parity Act, to improve access to mental and behavioral health services. Next slide. And those are all the state items. At the federal level, we're looking to improve access to consumer coverage by continuing enhanced premium tax credits, protect access to reproductive health, gender affirming care, and Affordable Care Act protections such as Section 1557 on non-discrimination and preventative services coverage, as well as supporting targeted efforts to build workforce and address shortages with the bipartisan Primary Care and Health Workforce Act. And then our one kind of broad non-legislative priority in this area is to just monitor threats to public programs at all levels. You heard earlier, we're entering a new administration with a lot of unknowns. And I think a lot of people are rightly concerned that there may be threats to many public programs, safety nets, and healthcare resources. So we will be monitoring those as well and responding as necessary. And I'll pass it back to HCHRWA.
Goal 3 is advancing equity, and we just got to hear from Richie and Joseph, who are carrying really the hard work of advancing immigrant health equity, and we'll continue to support those efforts. We'll also be supporting removing credit reporting of medical debt, and then also tracking the medically necessary for behavioral health treatments, which would help remove administrative barriers to accessing care. On the federal level, we'll be continuing to advocate for expanding healthcare to immigrants by removing federal eligibility barriers like the Lift the Bar Act. And then on the non-legislative side, we'll be monitoring legal challenges to federal rules. And with the new administration, there'll be threats to protect the progress that there'll be threats, and we want to make sure that we protect the progress that we've made so far. And then I'll pass it to Emily to go through goal 4.
Thank you, HCHRWA and Max. And I just have to say, so pleased to be passing the baton to both of you. You've done an amazing job with this process, guiding us all the way through it. And I'm just here for the legacy, the rounding up goal 4. And we've already talked about so much of this. It is going to be critical for us to defend our public programs this year across state, federal, and in every which way. We've talked about that a lot. We've recognized that we cannot make forward progress if we are sliding backwards and fighting up against a culture of austerity. So on a state level, we have to defend all of our safety net amidst the proposed budget cuts. Many of us have memories of how bad those cuts were during the Great Recession and how long it took for us to claw our way back from them, and we can't let that happen again. And in order to make sure that that doesn't happen again, I know that everybody here is going to be pouring their heart out into the progressive revenue that we are going to need to make sure those cuts happen and to rebalance our tax code, working with our sister coalition there, BOTC. We've already talked about the wealth tax that was proposed by the governor's budget, and it picks up on ideas from last year. And I know that there are a lot of other great ideas like the REIT proposal and Affordable Homes Act and the high earners payroll tax as well. We also, of course, at a state level, want to continue to be doing defensive work that pushes the envelope and kind of nudges our federal friends. So really pleased and excited to see a proposal from Senator Hasagawa encouraging our federal friends to defend original Medicare against privatization with a Senate joint memorial that conveys the policy message from us on a state level. And if we go to the next slide, we need to be picking up on all that work at a federal level as well. And I was so heartened to hear Claude talk about the historical view and all the work that he believes that we can do, because we are going to need to do it. So we're going to need to defend Medicare against reductions in benefits, prevent rollbacks to Medicaid. Many folks in this group are following the very scary proposals that are coming through potentially at a federal level, cutting our Medicaid safety net program that covers 2 million people in Washington nearly. And we are going to need to defend original Medicare against privatization and underfunding. New proposals that will come along, I'm sure. And also fighting against all the harm that has already happened to original Medicare through Medicare Disadvantage, and shout out to our friends at PSARA who have led so much of that work. And then from a non-legislative perspective, we are going to need to be working on all cylinders to make friends wherever we can and make sure we protect all these programs, even as we move forward in the ways that HCHWA and Max outlined. And that's it for me. And so grateful for HCHWA and Max for moving this forward.
Major thanks to HCHWA and Max. And we also want to give a really special thank you to Emily. She mentioned it, but she was a policy committee co-chair for 4 years, has helped grow and strengthen this coalition. And I can say it personally, and I don't think I'm alone, that I've learned so much from you, Emily. So thank you very much. Let's get down to business. Take it away, Cello.
Now we will get to our main task tonight, voting on our 2025 policy agenda. Conducting the vote will be Jim Howe, board member of American Federation of Teachers, Washington, retired chapter, and a member of our steering committee. Take it away, Jim.
Thank you, Cello. First of all, I have to announce that we have a quorum of members, meaning that we have one designated voter from each sponsoring member organization who will vote on our policy priorities. Because we are meeting remotely, we need to hold a roll call vote. We will call the name of the organization alphabetically and its designated voter. We know that some members may need to abstain, decline to vote in favor or against on particular issues because they or their national affiliate have not endorsed particular bills. We'll count this as a yes with an exception. So the 4 possible votes you'll see on this slide here are yes with an exception, like no pineapple on the pizza, no on the whole pizza, or abstain. Finally, we want to be sure to say that we know that some of the member organizations do not have the scope or capacity to work on all of the issues in our state and federal programs. The value of our coalition is that we are stronger together and can bring our combined voices to advocate for our common purposes. In that spirit, we hope our proposed platform meets with all our members' approval. So I'm going to right now call for a motion if Max or Howell would like to make a motion.
Yeah, I move to adopt the 2025 policy agenda.
I second that motion.
With the motion made and seconded, we're going to count all the work that people put into this and all the reading they've done for this as the discussion, and we're going to start with the vote. So I'm going to start with, as I said, alphabetically with the American Federation of Teachers, and I am the voter representative for that, and the American Federation of Teachers votes yes on the policy. Next, the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, AFL-CIO, Amy Luong. How do you vote?
We vote yes in favor.
The Asian Counseling and Referral Service, Joe Lachman. How do you vote?
Well, yes on the whole pizza.
The Backbone Campaign, David McClanahan. How do you vote?
Backbone Campaigns votes for at least one pizza.
The Coalition of
Yes.
Black Trade Unionists, Claude Burfict. How do you vote?
Yes.
The yes vote there. The Children's Alliance, Max Lau. How do you vote?
Children's Alliance votes yes.
The Community Health Network of Washington, HCHWA Elias. How do you vote?
We vote yes with an exception to the Washington Health Trust.
Okay, the Economic Opportunity Institute, Emily Brice is the proxy vote for this. How do you vote?
Actually, I am staying to vote. Sam Hatzenbuehler from Economic Opportunity Institute. Hello. And we vote yes on the whole agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. The Faith Action Network, Kristen Ang. How do you vote?
Yes.
The Healthcare for All Washington, Ronnie Shore. How do you vote?
Healthcare for All Washington votes yes.
LELO, the Legacy of Equality, Leadership, and Organizing, Ricardo Ortega. How do you vote?
LELO will vote yes.
The League of Women Voters, Mary Lynn Courtney. How do you vote?
League of Women Voters votes yes.
The Machinist District 751 Retirement Club, Tom Lutz. How do you vote?
We vote yes.
NAACP Seattle, King County, Claude Burfict. How do you vote?
NAACP vote yes.
The National Organization for Women, Washington, France Giddings, how do you vote?
We vote yes.
The North Seattle Progressives, Maureen Brinkland, how do you vote?
North Seattle Progressives votes yes on the whole pizza.
Northwest Health Law Advocates, Emily Brice, how do you vote?
Northwest Health Law Advocates votes yes.
Pacific Islander Health Board of Washington, Diala Ueki, how do you vote?
The Pacific Islander Health Board votes yes. And thank you for saying my name.
Physicians for a National Health Program, David McClanahan, how do you vote?
Physicians for a National Health Program votes yes.
Pride at Work, AFL-CIO, David Loud as proxy, how do you vote?
I am proud to vote yes for Pride at Work.
ProChoice Washington, Gabi Nazari, how do you vote?
ProChoice Washington votes yes. Thank you.
Puget Sound Advocates for Retirement Action, David Loud, how do you vote?
Emphatically yes.
Real Change, Kat Munson, how do you vote?
Real Change votes yes. Thank you.
Retired Public Employees Council of Washington, Elliot Weinstein, how do you vote?
We vote yes.
Save Secular Healthcare Washington, Susan Brooks Young, how do you vote?
We vote yes.
CMAR Community Health Centers, Jesus Sanchez, how do you vote?
CMAR Community Health Centers votes yes, emphatically as well.
Seattle Indivisible, Paul Oldenkamp, how do you vote?
I'm his proxy today. I'm Alex Fair. Seattle Invisible votes yes.
Thank you, Alex. Seattle Roots Community Health, Michael Craig, how do you vote?
Seattle Roots Community Health votes yes.
The Somali Health Board, Mohammed Shadani, how do you vote?
Oh, the Somali Health Board.
UAW 4121, Leo Wall, how do you vote?
UAW 4121 votes yes.
The Washington Community Action Network, Tosh Skorupa, how do you vote?
Washington Can proudly votes yes.
The Washington Federation of State Employees, Nikki Gomez, how do you vote?
With exceptions like staying on the Washington Health Trust, the federal legislation, just because we don't handle that portion, and the HCFAWA consolidation.
Thank you. Washington State Labor Council, AFL-CIO, April Sims, how do you vote?
Good evening. The Washington State Labor Council votes yes with the following exceptions. Abstaining from federal items as it's outside the purview of the WSLC, and abstaining from support for legislative efforts to achieve universal health care, noting some affiliate concerns around that, as well as some concerns around the proviso study for consolidating PEB and SEB, and state oversight of healthcare entity spending regarding PEB and SEB cost containment.
Thank you. The Washington Working Families Party, Vanessa Clifford, how do you vote?
We vote yes.
The Washington Poor People's Campaign, Ming Chen, how do you vote?
Washington Poor People's Campaign votes yes.
I'm calling on the Washington State Alliance for Retired Americans. I did not see Jackie Boshak here. Is Jackie here? Okay, we're not counting that vote. Whole Washington, Andre Stackhouse, how do you vote?
Proudly yes.
That concludes the voter roll that I have, and we will now go offline and count the votes.
Turn me around, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I just keep on walking, oh, I keep on because I'm marching on a freedom land.
We have completed the voting, and we're ready to announce the results. We had 33 members or organizations voting yes on the policy agenda. We had 3 members voting with exception, yes with exceptions, and the exceptions will be noted in the minutes. We had 0 no votes and 0 abstentions. We had 1 organization that was not present to vote. So we had 36 of our organizations voted out of 37, and that's just terrific. And we have a result.
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you, Healthcare is a Human Right. We are thrilled by the overwhelming passage of our policy agenda once again, and now for our call to action. So as Representative Macri pointed out, we are strongly against austerity that's coming if we don't take any action. So to the sign-on letter Max referenced earlier, we are going to be sending that out on Thursday in the Healthcare as a Human Right Bulletin. There'll be a form for folks to sign up and add their name to that sign-on letter, telling the legislature not to balance the budget on the backs of the most vulnerable communities and our members that we represent. Thank you very much, and we'll move it over to Cello for a go to the order so we can land this plane.
Thank you, John. Good of the order. So please raise your hand to announce events, and just to facilitate things, I'm going to call on Ronnie first to talk about our second Wednesday speaker series. But before he starts, please be aware that all of the links to the events will be in the January Healthcare as a Human Right Bulletin. Ronnie?
Thank you, Cello. At 7 p.m. tomorrow night, January 8th, we will have a Zoom meeting to present the legislative agenda, a number of issues that we have brought up tonight, but some more details about our state and federal actions. And we will also review an update on our Washington Health Security Trust, a bill that we promoted from, or we helped co-sponsor from in the early 2000s, back in the old days. Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to call upon Andre to talk about the whole Washington town hall.
Yes, well, actually, three things. So on January 13th, we will be doing a legislative outreach day in Olympia. So if you happen to be in town on that day, you can join us for that. We'll be pushing for co-sponsors on a couple of things. We have a virtual town hall on January 15th. You can find that online at wholewashington.org/events. And then way off in the future, arguably a little bit early for this one, but I did just want to let you all know that there will be a gala for universal healthcare in Seattle on May 17th. We will be soliciting sponsor organizations and selling tickets and tables. So we hope you see you there for a fun night and to raise some money to push universal healthcare forward. So thank you very much.
Okay, very quickly, April.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to take a point of personal privilege. I want to recognize that during the first Trump administration, it was the work of this group and many of the people on this call that helped lead the effort to make sure that Trump was not successful in repealing the Affordable Care Act. And I know that the work of this coalition is going to be instrumental in the coming years to make sure that we continue to move the ball forward on the policy areas that are most important to all of us. So I wanted to lift that up, and I want to give a big shout out to the folks that worked on the policy framework. I really appreciate the clarity around the goals guiding our work, the criteria used when filtering specific bills and budget items. I know that was a tremendous amount of work that went into putting this document together and bringing us all together tonight. So I just want to lift that up and tell you all, thank you very much for working hard and doing so much organizing around this tonight.
I'm sorry, Vanessa Clifford, I believe you have an event to announce.
Yeah, Working Families Party is hosting a free virtual training series for anybody who is interested in potentially running for office. I know there's a lot of school boards and small municipal seats up, or just any office, or if they're interested in possibly running a campaign. Again, it's free, it's online, it's virtual. Feel free to share within your networks for anybody who you may see as a leader.
Thank you. And now on to Mr. David from PNHP, Washington.
Yeah, we have our monthly meeting. Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We have our monthly meeting coming up next Wednesday at 7 p.m. And we're having Dr. David Murphy, who's an assistant professor at UW and Harborview Medical Center. And he's works with the emergency medicine, associate medical director for UW paramedic training and for King County EMS. And he's going to be talking about crisis centers and integrating behavioral health services and buprenorphine into pre-hospital care. Thank you.
We also have Gabby in the queue.
Yeah, thank you. ProChoice Washington's having our 2025 legislative kickoff this Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. You can learn about our lobby day and learn about the attacks we're facing against abortion and gender affirming care and how you can get involved. And I'll throw a link in the chat. Thank you.
Great. And now Amy?
Thanks. Just want to give an invitation out to everybody here that APALA Seattle is hosting our 26th annual fundraiser and silent auction, January 31st. Pretty early this year, but our theme this year is Forward Together, Protect Democracy. We're going to hear some of the victories that workers have fought in the last year and, what to look forward to and how we're going to, stand together as we go into this new year. So I'll drop a link in the chat for folks to join us. And it's always a good time to celebrate with each other.
Yeah, I didn't hear anyone mention anything about Martin Luther King Day, January 20th, but Washington Can is doing their lobby day in Olympia on that day. So if you guys aren't doing anything and you need something to do for MLK Day, come out with Washington Can to Olympia.
Thank you, Gina. And mine's really quick. Just we are recording this whole meeting, so it'll be there for us to view. But everybody who just spoke for good of the order, please send me an email, Nathan Rodke at washingtoncan.org, and I will make sure that it gets into the bulletin that we are going to put out later this week. David and I and Larry Cole and a few others. Well, maybe just David and Larry and I, but yeah.
David has his hand up.
Oh yeah, David, go ahead. Yeah.
Hello. Okay, Gina, you announced what's going on in Olympia on MLK Day. Thank you. And as many of you know, starting about 9 o'clock in the morning on January 20th, MLK Day at Garfield High School in Seattle are the workshops, followed by the rally at 11 and the march at noon, the traditional historic gathering for MLK Day that starts at Garfield. So we got Garfield and Olympia. Let's kick it up.
All right. Well,
may I just say something really quickly?
Please, Joan.
Yeah, hi. I am relatively new to this community and to this group, and I would just like to say I really appreciate you all. You have become a point of solace for me in the chaos and horror that's going to be ahead, because that's exactly how I see it. And I know that it is only through action that we will win. Thank you so much.
Claude, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to give a moment of silence for the president of CBTU. Sharika Carter's father passed away, and I would just like to give just a moment of silence, thinking of her and her family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. Since you mentioned that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Cheryl Wapacia Mays was going to be one of our MCs tonight, but she had to step away from that role pretty late stage because she lost her sister. So yeah, we're definitely experiencing some losses right now. We really appreciate Cheryl and everyone. But also, Cello, thank you for your kind words at the end there, or at the end here. Yeah, as we continue doing this work, we do have each other. We have our solidarity, and I think it's really, in this moment, we can always feel empowered that we do get to show up with our convictions, especially in these moments. And we do get to show up together. And I just, yeah, just like Cello, everybody says, like, I appreciate all of you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care.
Appreciate you all.
Bye.
Take care.
Wonderful job. Wonderful job.